Hey guys, so as you can tell from today's title, it is going to be a very interesting video. To start off with, I wanted to say that I felt that I had to make this video for my own personal healing journey, for the people around me, as well as any strangers that might find benefit in this video. I also want to start off by saying that this video is not anti anything. I fully know and believe that everyone has their own journey and their own story to tell, so please understand that this story is about my experience and not anyone else's. Now that that's all said and done, let's get to my story. I grew up in Los Angeles, California. I was raised by a single mom after my parents got divorced when I was about 8 years old. I grew up in a pretty traumatic household where my father was actually abusive toward my family. After that period in my life, I always felt a disconnect between myself and other males that were in my peer group. I was bullied a lot growing up in school because I was perceived to be more feminine than the rest of the male cohort. Fast forward to when I was about 16 years old, I started noticing that I was attracted to the same sex. So even though I wasn't openly identifying as gay, I did have feelings inside that resonated with that label. During college, I fully embraced the term gay, and even though I had serious issues with labels and how they can confine an individual, I still felt like that label most accurately described me. After a period of immense spiritual and mental growth, I came to realize that a lot of my desires and a lot of my actions were actually rooted in the pain and trauma I experienced as a younger child. I was actually not fulfilled. While I needed someone to love, acknowledge, and validate me, I was actually seeking out sexual experiences that only exploited myself and the other party. This became an addiction cycle that actually fueled the pain and trauma instead of healing it, which is what I ultimately needed. I decided to embark on a journey of inner healing, not just with regard to sexual identity, but just in terms of my whole being. Here we are, 5 years later, and I'm ready to tell the world I'm not gay. And I don't think I ever was. Not only do I feel like I took on that identity because of my childhood trauma and upbringing, but I also feel like the social structures that we have currently in the Western society were not built for people who don't meet gender norms and who also don't meet the confined labels that they have set up for them. One thing that really helped me on this journey of healing is that I stopped associating my actions and my desires and even my thoughts with my true identity. By differentiating my true identity from my thoughts, my desires, and my actions, I realized that just because I have certain thoughts or desires does not mean that I am X thing. I have autonomy over my sexual identity, and I get to choose how I wish to identify. Throughout my life, because I've come across as more feminine, people have assumed my sexuality. This actually impacted the way I saw myself. An idea I want to bring up in this video is that feminine and masculine actually vary across time and space. So what's deemed as feminine in this Western culture might actually be deemed masculine in another culture. By calling me feminine as an insult, it just shows you what a patriarchal society we live in, where being feminine is actually a sign of weakness. Because I was raised by a single mom and often had female friends, I never viewed women as objects. I think that it's actually really socially acceptable for men to view women as lesser, or maybe even in the extreme as sexual objects, even in the most subtle ways. So I personally felt like because I don't view women the same way most men view women, then I must not be attracted to women. During the past several years, I have come out to some close friends, and I've often been met with the same response, and that response is either shock or confusion. This has shown me that there's a double standard that exists in our society, and that is when someone decides to come out as gay after living a hetero life, there is less confusion and doubt that they're met with. In a sense, I feel like there's a gatekeeping that happens with regard to heterosexuality, to where you need to either perform a certain way, act a certain way, have a certain history, or do certain things in order to gain access to that space. Well guys, that's it for today's video. Personally, it was very hard for me to film this video, but I have been thinking about it for a very long time. I felt that I really had to do it if I wanted to be genuine and authentic to myself. As always, go ahead and sound off in the comments below whether you agree, disagree, whether you have a similar experience or different experience. I'd love to hear it regardless. Like I said earlier, this is solely my experience, my story, and that doesn't invalidate anyone else's experience or story. Alrighty guys, have a good day and see you next week. Bye.